Hello, my name is Rita Rosenbach. I am the author of the book Bringing Up a Bilingual Child. I'm also the creator of the website multilingualparenting.com and the driving force behind the Facebook page and the group Multilingual Parenting, which you are, by the way, welcome to join. Just click on the join button. You can find it through the page and then answer the 3 joining questions, and I'll be happy to have you join us. Good to have you here today. Today I have 3 questions that I'm answering. The questions are from Samia, Megan, and Audrey. Samia's and Megan's questions are very similar, even down to the languages they use, so I will partly deal with those together. If any of you, Samia, Megan, or Audrey, are online, please do feel free to add any further questions you have in the comments, and I will address those as well. And also, in addition, I will answer any other questions that come during this live session, if there are any. So Samia and Megan both have 2 languages in the family, English and French. Samia is French and her husband English, and Megan is English, or she's American but speaks English, of course, and her husband is French. So those are the 2 languages in both families. And they also both speak each other's languages. So Samia's question is that they have been trying to be consistent in using English, her husband English, and Samia French, but she has noticed, her eldest daughter is now 3, that her consistency is no longer the same as it was to start with. And also that her daughter, who is 3, does not speak a word of French but understands everything. Just to be aware that it's a huge thing that she understands everything, and that means she's got a grasp of the language. It will need some encouragement, motivation, a real need to use the language for her to start to use it. I can see this with my own grandson, who's 2.5. Whose minority language is Swedish. I speak Swedish with him, but he prefers to answer in English. But especially since we introduced some toys that can only understand if he speaks Swedish, then he has started using more Swedish. And now he also, when he really wants something, it comes out in Swedish. So it can be done. It just needs a bit of the right kind of environment for a child to want to speak. Samia explained that she has turned to English because she wants to make sure she understands. Well, on the one hand, you said that she understands everything, so I would be confident about that. And then maybe instead of turning to English, if you want to explain something to her, Samia, just do it in a couple of different ways. So use a different phrase or just so not to repeat exactly the same, but just describe or use more words to describe what you want to tell her. And then I think, which probably is the bigger thing, it says, because it comes, Samia writes, because it comes easiest to me. And that is the thing. It is so easy to slip into the language which is easiest to use. With regards to that, I would recommend that you think hard about how it would feel if she were not to start speaking French at all, because she will need the prompt. She will need you to speak French for her to have the need. So while it is easier to slip into the language which just at the moment feels more convenient, try to keep in mind how important it is that you speak French. I have written a blog post about this very topic, So I will add a link to that after the session. And then Samia, you ask, what about if we all spoke French at home, even her husband? And if he is comfortable, if you say he's fluent and he is comfortable in switching to French, which I would absolutely imagine he is, since he was raised in France, then yes, I would strongly recommend that you switch the home language to French, all of you, because that is the most efficient way to ensure that your daughter will start answering in French. You might come across some resistance to start with, that she doesn't like that you switch languages, but you just have to stick with it. There have been research done, and the by far most effective way of raising a child to speak two languages is to have the minority language only at home, and then the child picks up the majority language in nursery and school, so that the success rate is above 90%. It's with the traditionally most popular option, the one parent, one language, the success rate is on average less. However, these are averages, and every family is individual, and in some families, the one parent, one language is the only viable option, and is the one that families should use. But in your case, Samia, I would recommend that you switch to using the minority language at home approach. So both you and your husband speak French all the time, and soon your daughter will answer you in French as well, as she notices that is the language that everybody uses. And Megan, you have a similar situation. Again, you speak English and your husband speaks French, but you are both fluent in each other's languages. You now live in the UK, so English is the community language. You have yourself, you have an advanced proficient level of French, and I worked as an assistant teacher in French, so I'm sure your French is at a good level as well. So you will stay home with your baby for the first half year or a year, and then your child will go to an English-speaking nursery. You mentioned that your husband works long hours, which means that there probably will be fairly little exposure to French to your daughter. So again, the most efficient way would be, if you feel comfortable with it, to switch to having French as your home language. You do have some concerns about as you write, will I regret not sharing songs and nursery rhymes from my childhood? You can still do it. This is not an absolute thing that if you choose to speak French, that you should never ever speak any English. By all means, sing the nursery rhymes, or sing the songs and read the nursery rhymes to your daughter in English, if this is what you wish. You can. It won't confuse your daughter. She will very quickly learn to keep the languages apart. So please feel free to still express yourself in English in those things that you are really close to your heart. You need to think about whether you are comfortable. It's difficult for me to assess, but based on what you say, I think it should be perfectly doable. But only you can know whether this is something you really want to do, and you can do on a long-term basis. So yes, in both cases, for Samia and Megan, I would recommend the minority language at home approach. on the premises that both parents are happy to use the minority language, which in this case is French. So that would be the best way to make sure that your children grow up speaking both languages and get proficient in French, because especially in England, because Samia, you live in Scotland, yes. So this, all the surrounding will be English. School will be English. Media will be English. Friends will be English. So that's why it is good to make the home like a bastion of the French. So the children get the French exposure from there. So that was those were the two first questions. I have another one from Audrey. Let me know, Audrey, if you are online. And Audrey lives in Spain, in Mallorca, which is Catalan speaking. She speaks English to her children who are 3 years and 6 months, and her husband speaks Italian, right? So we have three languages to start with, and we have an au pair who speaks Spanish, so that's the fourth language. The 3-year-old son is going to has attended Spanish nursery, but now he's going to preschool, which is 95% Catalan and a bit of English, right? But the children amongst themselves, they speak Spanish, as many children are not local. So in your son's life, he will be speaking English with you, Italian with his father, and then Spanish with his friend, and will be hearing Catalan at school as well. You would prefer him to learn Spanish rather than Catalan. So you're considering a private school, and based on you have one option, which is a French school, and at that French school, they would also he would also study Spanish, English, and Catalan. Well, the additional languages of Spanish, English, and Catalan would already be familiar to your son. So those wouldn't be an additional load. It is that he would go to a school which is in a language that he doesn't know anything about, and he hasn't spoken in any circumstances. To me, I would first discuss with the school, are they used to dealing with children coming in knowing no French at all? Because in some schools, they do require some level of the school language before these children start school. So that's the first thing I would ask. And whether there is any other way that you can bring in French for him. Maybe you thought about having an au pair in French, maybe, if this is your preferred option. So you're asking so your question is that whether this will be too many languages for your son, because the French would be his fifth language. It's hard to say based on this short description, and based on when there are so many variables. This would be a typical family language coaching situation, where we would go through different variables and discuss based on those. My first concern here is Italian, because there is no other Italian exposure for your son. Where will he be spending enough time with your husband so he can pick up the Italian? I think his English will be fine, independent of which school you choose. children can learn several languages as growing up, especially if they are clearly separated. Sorry. If they are separated by situation or by person. So French, in that way, French would come from a separate source only at school. However, my question is also, do you or your husband know French? Can you support him throughout school with French and homework, and how will that work? That's also a thing you need to take into consideration. So do I think your son could manage with this? I think yes. You will continue speaking English with him, and as I understand, there's also others in the community speaking English. With regards to Italian, presuming there is enough exposure to Italian for your son, he will pick that up from his father, but that might take some prompting for him to express himself in Italian. So, like I always say in these situations, a good way to boost a child's language skill is to visit or stay for some time in the country where the language is spoken. So that's English and Italian. Spanish looks like is the common language among the children, and he's already stayed with an au pair who speaks Spanish and been to nursery speaking Spanish, so his Spanish is already quite well developed, I would think. If he leaves the Catalan school, then and it goes into a French one, then depending on how much Catalan he will get, other exposure he gets to Catalan, he may or may not keep that one up. If he goes to a French school, continues throughout his schooling in a French school, so that's another thing you need to consider. If you put him into a private school in French, is there an option for him to continue his education in French? If yes, then he will inevitably learn French, and he will know that language as well. What you will have to do is make sure that you support him with his Italian and English, of course, as well. But that's something you need to keep an eye on while his languages are evolving and developing. So yes, I haven't given you 100% clear answer because there are so many variables and so many things to take into consideration. But can a child pick up 5 languages simultaneously? Yes, but it won't be equally fluent, and there will be some languages will be less they will be less proficient in some languages, and you need to make sure to support the family's main languages. In your case, I would say English and Italian. If you want him to be fluent in both languages, then you need to make sure that there's a strong support for that at home. So those were the questions that I had today. Thank you very much for anyone attending and listening. And I will add the link to the blog post that I mentioned earlier on. And please feel free to send in your questions. I do these live Q&As every second week. And I'm happy to answer and help with any questions that I can. Have a great week and all the best from me. Thank you. Bye.